What happens when even Adrian Newey is shocked by his own creation? Why was the FIA forced to intervene with a car that barely debuted on the track? And the most disturbing thing, has a legal monster been born in the grayest area of the technical regulations? During the first laps, the car did not set otherworldly times. He wasn't the fastest, he didn't make headlines for track performance. But what did immediately capture attention were the images leaked from the pit lane, taken by high-definition cameras and analyzed frame by fans and specialists. In those captures, a mystery began to emerge. The rear suspension of Alonso's car did not resemble anything known until that moment. It wasn't simply innovative, it was disruptive. Quickly, the sensational headlines did their job. Some media announced that the FIA had opened an investigation against Aston Martin. Others claimed that Adrian Newey, the legendary designer who now collaborates with the British team, had been shocked to see his own creation called into question by the regulatory body. There was even talk of a potential exclusion of the car for the 2026 season before winter testing was even completed. But when we move from the headlines to the real analysis, the picture is different. What really happened in Barcelona was part of the usual protocol that the FIA applies every year with new cars. A process known as technical scrutineering. This inspection includes a detailed review of all the car's components, surface scanning, materials verification, geometry measurement, and review of compliance with current technical regulations. It is an exhaustive but routine procedure. So where did the fuss come from? The root lies in a specific decision by the FIA to request a technical clarification on the design of the AMR26 rear suspension. This, for those who are not immersed in the F1 ecosystem, may sound like the beginning of a sanction, but it is not. In practical terms, this is a formal request by FIA technicians for the team to explain in detail how that innovative solution fits within the rules. These types of requests are not uncommon. In fact, they occur almost every year. When a team is ahead of the rest in creativity, the FIA cannot remain passive. But crucially, this request did not imply that the design was illegal, nor that it was under investigation. It was rather an amber traffic light, not an infraction but a preventive warning. A notice that says, "Show me why this is legal before the rest of the paddock starts protesting." And about Adrian Newey, here the misunderstanding was even greater. Some interpreted his initial statements as him being alarmed or disappointed. But what he really expressed, according to sources close to the team and British technical media, was quite the opposite. Newey was surprised, yes, but because the car's results on the track were better than what his own simulation models had projected. And that, in a designer obsessive with details, does not generate concern. It generates enthusiasm. Half a second per lap of improvement compared to the simulator is not an error. It is a validation. And for any F1 engineer, when actual performance exceeds digital prediction, there is something very special at stake. It is a clear indication that the aerodynamic concept not only works, but has room for improvement. That the radical can become dominant. That they have not only found something legal, but something powerful. At this point, while the public narrative spoke of scandal, illegalities, and urgent intervention, within the paddock the rumors followed another line. Will this be the first great revolutionary interpretation of the new 2026 technical regulations? The answer was not in an official statement. It was in the faces of the rivals. In the constant glances towards the Aston Martin box. In the way that Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari engineers began placing thermal cameras and directional microphones pointed at the rear arms of the green car every time Alonso took to the track. A mystery was born. And in Formula One, when a design raises more questions than answers, it is because it has struck a chord throughout the system. What makes the AMR26 a radical car is not only its exterior shape or the colors it is painted. It is what is not easily seen. It's the way its rear suspension has rewritten without violating the FIA technical regulations. A work of engineering that seems like magic, but is perfectly legal. To understand what has happened to the design of this car, you have to break down how a suspension works in Formula One. Traditionally, wishbone suspension arms are designed with two fundamental objectives: to guarantee structural rigidity and to allow controlled movement of the wheels. They are mechanical parts, not aerodynamic. But that changed. What Aston Martin, and more specifically Adrian Newey, has done is design a suspension in the form of an aerodynamic device, without legally being one. Instead of building a low rear wing, which is expressly prohibited by the 2026 technical regulations, what they have done is profile the suspension arms themselves so that they channel airflow towards the rear diffuser, generating downforce without adding extra drag. This has a name among engineers: dual-purpose passive aerodynamics. and it's the kind of design that separates the good teams from the legendary ones. The specific configuration that is generating so much buzz is an architecture known as double pushrod. In simple terms, this means that there are two rods that push the movement of the wheel into the chassis, but what's really revolutionary is how they are positioned. The upper arm has been set back and lowered into the chassis, which completely changes the angle of attack versus airflow. By positioning it in a line similar to that a prohibited beam wing would follow, this component begins to do much more than absorb impacts. It acts as an airflow control surface. Aston Martin has opted for an extreme concept, dubbed by some analysts as Size 0 2.0. It is an even more aggressive evolution than the design that Mercedes implemented unsuccessfully in 2022, but this time with a much more coherent integration into the aerodynamic assembly. The side pods are so narrow and so high that they barely leave room for the human eye between the body of the car and the floor of the car. Because by reducing the volume in that area, a brutally efficient air channel is generated that is directed directly to the floor and the diffuser. This type of design is only viable if the entire technical team works in sync. And this is where the hidden gem of the AMR26 comes in, its power unit. Honda has delivered a RA626H engine specifically optimized to enable this architecture. An extremely compact engine with a low and forward mass distribution, which allows Newey and the aerodynamics team to free up space for airflow. This is not a coincidence. It is the result of a total collaboration between engine manufacturer and aerodynamic designer. An exclusive advantage of the so-called works teams, something that no client can replicate at that level. But that's not all. The nose design of the AMR26 is another point that has caught the attention of experts. Wider than usual, with a flattened shape that directly recalls the Red Bull champions of the Vettel era between 2010 and 2013. This geometry allows greater control of the flow that is directed towards the front floor and at the same time, creates what technicians call the seagull effect. A central aerodynamic depression that improves the anchoring of the car to the asphalt without depending excessively on the front wing. Another element that has generated debate is the geometry of the front suspension. Work has been done on an extreme anti-dive system, which prevents the car from sinking under heavy braking. This longitudinal balance control is key under the new ground effect rules, since it allows the air flow under the floor to remain sealed to the asphalt even under intense braking, which translates into greater load without generating turbulence or loss of efficiency. But the quietest trick and perhaps the most difficult to replicate is under the car. The floor of the AMR26 is not only flat. It is sculpted with a series of vortex generators that, according to ultra-slow motion technical video analysis, create flow patterns that no other equipment has managed to replicate. These vortices act as invisible shields that keep the air energy attached to the chassis, improving grip in transition areas such as mid-corners and minimizing the loss of stability when the driver changes direction. This, in modern Formula One, makes the difference between a good lap and an unbeatable lap. All in all, what Aston Martin has built with the AMR26 is not a good trick car. It is a platform that maximizes the new 2026 regulation in almost all fundamental areas of performance: suspension, aerodynamics, packaging, cooling, balance, and mass distribution. And perhaps most disturbing for its rivals is that the car has not yet been exploited to its full potential, because the concept is designed not only to be competitive from day one, but to scale, to evolve, to grow in performance as the season progresses and engineers master its complexities. While other teams are still learning how to adapt to the new regulations, Aston Martin, thanks to the mind of Adrian Newey, has made the leap into a new generation of technical thinking. And the AMR26, more than a car, is the first chapter of a new language in Formula One. What Aston Martin has unleashed with the AMR26 is not just a technical conversation. It's a warning, a sign. Because when a design like this emerges in the paddock, legal but unexpected, radical but cleverly within the rules, the impact goes far beyond on-track performance. What is at stake is the conceptual stability of the entire sport. Will we see a grid divided between those who copy the architecture of the AMR26 and those who insist on their own concepts? Or will we witness a radical reaction from the FIA, as so many times in the past, to nip this reinterpretation of the regulations in the bud? Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.